Very often I'm asked the question about whether Bharatanatyam is religious. Do we need to um, have belief in Hinduism or have belief in these gods in order to practice Bharatanatyam? In order to understand any art form that is there in any culture, we have to know the history and the background of it. Like if you look at ballet, ballet came from royalty and it has a certain background. It came from like kings and rulers presenting themselves well. First from the Medici family, then through Italy and all. You can read up on that because that's not my forte. But it came from being very presentational. And the beauty of the form, the gestural quality of the form and all of that lies in this kind of erectness of the spine, the way the arms are carried, and it comes from some of the customs of, how they would meet and greet and dance together. So all these things come from that. The same with, if you look at any art form, I don't want to go on listing them, but they came from expressing a dire need that was there culturally at that point, and it was necessary for that population of people to speak through this art form. Like jazz is assertive, it asserts freedom and a kind of, it has a raw energy of saying, take notice of me and I'm here and I'm a person. So everything is confrontational with jazz, and that's the beauty of the form. You can't take these things out of it. Now when it comes to Bharatanatyam, and I would say largely all the classical Indian dance forms, we have to look at the culture of India. In India, we think of everything as divinity. If you look at every festival we celebrate, the way we're meant to live our lives, we consider the water divine. We thank Mother Ganga for giving us water to shower with. We thank Annapurneshwari before we eat our food. We say, thank you Annapurneshwari for giving me this food. We touch the floor and touch our eyes. We thank Mother Earth, because there's divinity that is recognized not just in other people and human beings, but in objects, in things that are there in the world. So when we think of this, Bharatanatyam is as religious as a tree or the floor, or as religious as us respecting and understanding the value of water in our lives. It's because there is this idea of divinity that is present in everything. And yes, later this culture with the Westerners, they called it Hinduism and they said this is a religion, but it was actually a way of life, a way of living. So music and the arts and dance and sculpture and all of it attached itself to this culture that attempted to recognize this non-dualistic nature of humanity, which didn't separate one from another. It was saying that everything is one or non-dual, and that we must recognize and understand that we're all of the same fabric, we're all the same. And this idea of LshVa, or the supreme consciousness, or this Advaitic philosophy kind of has permeated everything, including arts and culture and all of it. So in that sense, I don't know if you want to call it religious. Is that religion? I'm not sure. I think it's a way of life, and I think it's a philosophy. I think it's spiritual, but it's not contained by the things that we perceive as religion, and it's not contained by the borders of what we say as this is a particular religion and this is a particular format. It definitely lends itself to consistently understanding the divinity present within everything. The stories repeatedly say the same thing through multiple metaphors, through using this image of Shiva or using the image of Devi, or this idea of Krishna, where Krishna is in a Rasa Leela and the Gopikas are dancing around him, and every Gopika has a Krishna That is because Krishna represents the supreme consciousness. He is not a human being. He is speaking as Ishvara, or that divinity that exists within everything. So it says that every Gopika has a Krishna. That means everything is Krishna. Now people will also say that there's a gender bias, Krishna is a man, but you can't it makes me laugh because there is no gender. This Ishvara or the supreme consciousness has no gender, it has no form. You can't even give it a form. You can't say Krishna is thing. That's just for our limited thing, our limited understanding, because as humans we can't assimilate something that's formless. So we in dance we use these metaphors that exist in Hinduism as the religion that has been given a name to us, that are there repeatedly to reinforce this idea. So the art form comes largely from more a need for a revelation of the self, a need to understand oneself, a need to understand the unity and the non-dualistic nature of this world. And so yes, the art form does largely not just address subjects that cater to that, but all the content and poetic content and literature and all of that keeps going back to the same subject. So I don't know, I don't think that is religion in the way that we think of as religion. I think it's an art form, and we know that this is the basis of it, just like jazz is assertive, and that's the beauty of it. And the beauty of these classical Indian dance forms, including Bharatanatyam, is that it came from a place of saying, let's try to communicate this idea through all these metaphors that exist, and these images that exist. And that's what I believe, and that's how I practice Bharatanatyam. And yeah.